Well, welcome everyone. I'm your host, Mr. Fulton Moraz, and we have a very special guest with us. He is one of the actors and singer, songwriter from Phineas and Ferb and House of Mouse and all the animated movies and TV shows and songs he wrote. So sorry for the delay, everyone. We've been busy today, um, but let's bring him up right now. Make sure you guys hit the thumbs up and share the stream, and don't forget if you guys are new, subscribe to the channel. And ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to announce Mr. Randy CrenShaw.
Thank you, Fulton. Good to be
Yeah,
with you.
yeah, it's a pleasure for having you here.
Thanks.
So tell everyone about yourself.
Well, it's the usual tale. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. I was raised mostly in a little ranch town, Bend, Oregon. At the time I lived there, it was pretty small, and it didn't have a big year-round population. It was most of the people who lived there either worked on a ranch or worked in the lumber mill. So, yeah, when I decided that I wanted to maybe get into the music industry and do recording stuff, I remember my guidance counselor saying to saying, "Yeah, but what do you want to do for a living?" Like actually thinking that you couldn't make a living doing music, like recording stuff. She just thought that was a
Mhm.
hobby. So I'd love to go back. I'd love to be able to go back and tell her, I made it. so, so cut. Fast forward a few years. I moved from there. I went to music school. I had been to a regular music college, like a conservatory of music thing in Salem, Oregon. I went to Willamette University, which had a college of music and theater. So I was training to be a trumpet player. I was going to be an orchestral trumpet player. But the thought of playing the music of all dead composers my whole career seemed very boring to me. So I decided, no, I'd really rather do recording work, because when you do recording work, then you're doing new things that have just been written, right?
Right.
And I found that I wanted to do stuff other than just play trumpet. So I ended up going to Berklee College of Music, which is a pretty well-known school in Boston, Massachusetts. And it's basically a vocational college of music. If you know that you want to do music as a career, Berklee's a great place for you to go. So I went there, attended there for a couple of years, had a great time, then moved back to LA, and fast forward a couple of years, I started thankfully working in the recording industry.
Okay. So tell us. The question is, what is your favorite song or cartoon song, animated song you have written in the past few
Wow.
years?
Well, of course, most of the time I'm not the writer of the song. I'm just the voice that comes in to sing on it. Um, and I have a lot of faves, but I think probably one of my faves is the Perry the Platypus theme from Phineas and Ferb. That was written by Danny Jacob, and then the showrunners, the guys that put the show together. And they had the idea of having this guy who's a recurring character, who's a duck-billed platypus, who's a private detective. So you have to have a good imagination to
Right.
do animation. So they decided he needed to have his own theme, and Danny basically thought it needed to sound like those old James Bond movies, those adventure action movies. It needed to sound like that. So he's the one that put together the Perry the Platypus theme, and the guys who were the showrunners put together the lyrics for it. and then I came and put a vocal on it. So that's really fun. Oh, and we just had a reboot of the series after it had been, 10 years since they did episodes. They're now doing a bunch of new episodes for not Perry the Platypus, but for Phineas and Ferb. So I get to have my theme will be played. Oh, there he is with his.
Yeah.
You got the right shirt. Beautiful.
Yeah, I do.
Well, I had one that had a picture of Perry the Platypus right on the front of it and did the live, a debut. They kind of had a big rollout concert event in Hollywood. And so I was able to get on stage for about a few hundred of their big fans and sing Perry, Perry the Platypus.
Yeah.
Yes. Agent P.
They have a Christmas CD just on Disney TV just earlier today.
Nice.
So
that's great fun. And, I've had a chance to do, thankfully, a lot of things for Disney, whether for their films, for their television, animation projects. I've done stuff on the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and just tons of music over the years for the Disney franchise. So I'm really grateful for the chance because I've been able to do everything from Santa Claus voices to, kind of Jungle Book kind of stuff to, just all over the map kind of things. And getting a chance to play basically is what we do in voiceover and singing. And having a chance to play and be paid for it is pretty neat.
Okay. Let's see. What is your perfect writing conditions?
Well, when I do write, it's usually at my desk, in my kind of little office, which is upstairs in my house. You go up the stairs, and I've got my little crowded, little messy area in front of my desktop. And I sit there and I do it the old-fashioned way. I sit and actually put a pencil to a piece of music paper, manuscript paper, and scribble out the notes the old-fashioned way. So when I do write, that's the way I write.
Let's see here. Do you perform and do you play live or do you play any musical instruments?
Well, that's two different questions. First of all, remember I started as a trumpet player, so I still play trumpet, although I don't, put my shingle out as a trumpet player most and foremost. I still do it for fun. I play for my church. I play for various things for people who know that I actually play, but I also double badly on a lot of instruments. Like I can play guitar badly. I can play piano badly. I play recorders, which are kind of cool. They're like these little flutophone things that, sometimes kids in school, they learn to play them. They go, doot, 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 doot. But I play them better than that. So those are the things I play. As far as live performance stuff, that's not my primary thing. I used to tour a lot more than I do now, but thankfully, when I do go out, it's usually really fun. And one of the things I do that's really hilariously fun and has been for the last 10 years, I've been out touring, doing live show versions of Nightmare Before Christmas, which is, again, a Disney, animated movie. And we go out with Danny Elfman, the composer of that, and then 5 of us who do all the character voices of the townspeople of Halloween Town. And we go out and we do it live in front of audiences with a big symphony orchestra and choir, and then us doing all the character voices. So we're going to do that at the Hollywood Bowl here in LA in a couple months. At the end of October, we're going to do a couple of nights. So really looking forward to it.
I wish I could come, but I've been busy and everything. So.
Oh man, yeah. If you were out in LA, I'd get you a ticket.
Are you good? Yeah, I'd love to.
Let me know. But,
yeah,
but it's really fun. And we've done the same show, Fulton. We've done it in Tokyo, Japan, London, England, Glasgow, Scotland, Dublin, Ireland. You know, we've been around with it, and even in Mexico. Last year we did an outdoor festival in Monterrey, Mexico. That was amazing, with the most people I've ever performed in front of for a live show. We had over 80,000 people watching.
Oh, wow.
So that's a big crowd, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, and they stretched out for blocks. You know, they were kind of on this outdoor mall area, and they set up all the seating, and then they watched giant big screens to see us because they were so far from us. You know, they'd be a block and a half away from us, some of the crowd. So that's the way they could see and hear us.
Sorry.
That's great fun.
Today.
All right, you got the shades.
Yeah, I got the shades. I've been having problems of seeing today, so.
Oh, no worries.
Let's see. How did you come up with Disney? How did you
touch bases with them?
Yeah, touch base.
Well, they contacted me, thankfully, and the way work comes in the session world is usually by referral. In other words, somebody who's worked with you gets asked by somebody at Disney, a producer or an engineer or a composer. They'll say, "Hey, who do you know who does fill in the blank?" You know, and then in my case, I was fortunate enough that people would say, "Well, you should call Randy because he's one of those guys that does a lot of different voices. You know, he doesn't just do one style and one thing. He does a bunch of things." So maybe they'd want somebody who could sing in Indonesian, you know, in a language like that. Well, I don't speak Indonesian, but if you give me some samples, I can copy it pretty well. So I've sung in a lot of languages, by the way, that I don't speak, you know, which gets me in trouble sometimes because I do it with a pretty good accent. You know, I can imitate stuff. So I'll sing something, and the people who are native speakers of that language, well, then they'll contact me and they'll start speaking in that language really fast because they think I know what they're saying. And I go, whoa, habla inglés, you know. I only speak English. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
But so it was all, the answer to your question is most of the work I got was referrals, where somebody at Disney called and said, "I got your name from 2 or 3 different people, so I figure you might be a good call to do this." And then, of course, once that happens, you as the talent have to go in and actually deliver. If I fall on my face and don't do it, well, that's the last time they call me. But if it works out okay, then I get on somebody's call list. And you do that enough times, and that equals what I've been really blessed to have, which is a career in the entertainment industry. So there you go.
Okay. So what is your favorite genre of music? Like Christian or something like that? Or
You know what? I love a lot of different styles of music. I'm not so stuck on any one style, although I must say, for me to really love a music style, it has to be done really well and heartfelt. If somebody is just kind of phoning it in, or they're doing a half-baked version of it, I don't really enjoy it. But if somebody's doing really beautiful version of it, I love Christian music, I love bluegrass, I love jazz, I love country music. You know, I'm a fan of, I even love classical and Renaissance music from back in the 1500s. I actually sing regularly in a choir that does music mostly in Latin from the 1500s and before. And it's really gorgeous. So, you know, I like all those kinds of music as long as they're done well and people are really heartfelt about it. That's, to me, what makes music beautiful. You know, it can express stuff that you can't express any other way.
right.
Yeah.
So let me think of something. So how did you do House of Mouse? Because I know that's the biggest one of the things you did with them. And
Sure.
How did you come up with that?
Well, in both cases, it was somebody. In one case, a good writer friend of mine named Mike Himmelstein, and Mike has written for House of Mouse and Mickey's Clubhouse and a lot of different shows like that. So he called me in because I had done other things for him for different producers and companies. And he said, "Oh, you'd be perfect for this." So he invited me. And then I got to work on it. And then they got to know me. And that led to other work for them. So this business, when you get right down to it, it's almost all word of mouth. In other words, if you're working in it and people find out who you are and and they hear what you've done, then they'll hire you for other things. You don't send a resume out. I mean, sometimes I'll send them clips, audio clips of me singing something or speaking something if I'm auditioning for something. But most of the time, most of my work is actually good old referrals. And if I say that I know how to do that music and say, yeah, I'm comfortable with that, usually I get the job. But then it's up to me to actually do it.
Hmm. So how did you work on animation? How'd you learn that?
Well, again, uh, first of all, the joke is I have a face made for radio. You know, I was never going to be an on-camera actor star. I've done some on-camera things, but it's not really the main thing I do. I like being anonymous. I like being
Mm-hmm.
somebody whose voice gets heard everywhere, but I don't have stalkers. I don't have paparazzi trying to hunt me. Nobody knows who I am, but they know my voice. So that's how I got doing animation, because animation is providing a voice for a character that's already been drawn. So I love that, because then you can play.
Right. Let's see. Let me think of something else. How did you do? My grandpa once asked, "How did you do Woody Woodpecker, the song?"
Oh yeah. Well, that was the thing where the guy who was the composer for the new Woody the Woodpecker show. Of course, there was the famous animated show back in the 50s, which I grew up hearing, like a lot of people of my age. You know. But there was a remake. They were going to do a live action movie a few years ago
Mm-hmm.
with these actors, and then they would have an animated Woody the Woodpecker show up in the middle of it. So I got called by the composer. He said, "Would you be interested in doing this weird song in the Woody the Woodpecker movie?" And I said, "Sure. Well, what weird song are you talking about?" And they wanted to do an old song that from the 60s called
Mm-hmm.
"Bird is the Word." And it was just this really silly novelty song at the time where the guy goes, "Bird, bird, bird, bird is the word, bird, 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 bird is the word, bird." And it goes on like that for about 5 minutes. So he goes, "Do you want to do that?" I said, "Sure, that sounds fun." So that's how I ended up on Woody the Woodpecker. So
Okay.
we imitated the original recording of it, and a lot of people thought that they had the original recording. They said, "That's amazing! You got the original." No, we did a sound alike of it.
Okay. Let's see. Um, what about
Oh,
Animal
Animal
Jam?
Jam.
How's that
Yeah.
going?
You know what? Animal Jam was a fun one. Again, this was that Mike Himmelstein as my contact. Uh, he was working on this series, helping produce the music for it, and he recommended me because they just needed some really versatile singers that could come in and sing different stuff every week. And that was an interesting show because if you watched it, it was some puppets, Henson type puppets,
Mm-hmm.
along with kids in a live audience and the live actors. So they did that, but we provided a lot of the pre-record. So anytime they were singing, there'd be music tracks already recorded and stuff with us singing stuff. And it was just really fun. This was done by the Henson people, Jim Henson, the guy that did the Muppets and all those things.
Yes.
Really, really fun. Very clever. But I think it didn't last that long because people didn't quite know what to do with it. They thought, it's really interesting, but it's a little out of the ordinary. So,
Right.
but we had fun with it while it lasted.
Interesting. So how did you work with Jim Henson?
Well, that's the thing. He had actually sadly passed away by the time
Right.
we worked with him. We were working with his company, and it was really his son and some other people that were responsible for Animal Jam. So we just worked with Henson Productions. I never had the pleasure of working with Jim Henson in person, although I did do a record some years earlier called Muppets Beach Party, in which they were doing all surf music. So I got to be like the Beach Boys and put together background vocals behind them. It was so fun because we would do all our Beach Boys sounding stuff, and then you would hear, Fonzie and, just all the classic Muppet characters, Miss Piggy, and, it was great fun.
Okay. So how did you get in contact with Jake Deffinwood?
Oh gosh, I think he contacted me out of the blue. Maybe he got my name from somebody else in the business. That's how it works. We call it a friend of a friend of a friend. That's a lot of my work comes from running into people like that, and they say, "Hey, I work with your friend blah blah," and they said, "Call you." So that's how I still get work. I just got booked to do an episode of the show Futurama.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. It's by the same people, of course, that originated The Simpsons and, those kind of shows. So Futurama is another Matt Groening kind of thing. But I get to go and sing as one of the singing pirates. So
I'm suppose you have a clip or something, don't you?
I don't have a clip of anything. This is how it typically happens. I'll go in and I'll sing. We're going to go in a couple of weeks, and then I'll sing it, and then later on, it'll hopefully show up on air, and it'll be fun. But I get to sing something like this, with our pirate voice. So that'll be fun.
How did you work on your impressions, like cartoon impressions?
Oh, it's what got me into trouble in school. I was always doing imitations of the kids around me and of the teacher and everybody, just for fun. I was one of those class clown types because I got bored with school, honestly. A lot of school was a little bit too slow for me. Not that I thought I was the greatest in the world, but the pace of class was kind of slow and boring. So to entertain myself, sometimes I would imitate the kids around me, especially the girl that sat in front of me. I imitated her voice a lot. So I got her in trouble with the teacher because teacher would be at the board with their, back turned to the class, writing on the chalkboard, right? And I would have, in the voice of Becky, the girl that sat in front of me, I would say something like, "Mrs. Johnson, that dress makes your butt look fat," or something horrible, and then the teacher would whirl around and think that Becky did that, and it wasn't Becky, it was me. But I hardly ever got caught. So I think that was how I started, really, just being a goofball. And I did a lot of detention time. I went to the principal's office a lot. And in those days, I'm old enough that they still had what they called corporal punishment, which meant you could get a whack on the rear end with a paddle if you did something wrong. So in junior high, I remember visiting the vice principal's office regularly, like every couple of days. And, I'd have to bend over and they'd swat me, with this big paddle that some stupid kid had made in wood shop. And he'd go, "Okay, now don't act up in class." "Okay." And then go back to class and start acting up again. That was very bad. So, but ironically, the things that I got in trouble for in school, now people pay me to do. So there's something funny about that. And I've talked to other comics that feel the same way, Fulton, like, the late, great Robin Williams.
Yes.
He's he was a guy who was just probably nowadays they would have put him on Ritalin or some drug thinking he was hyperactive. But in those days, they just thought he was crazy, and he did a lot of, getting in trouble. But eventually he became this amazing improv comic. So sometimes,
Yeah. Let me see. How did you work with DreamWorks, like Far Far Away Idol? How did you work on that?
Yeah. Well, again, that's a contact from my buddies. My buddy Mike Himmelstein. I owe him a lot because once he found out what I could do, he would invite me to a lot of these projects. So I had a chance to go in and work on Shrek 2 and Shrek the Third, which were, I didn't work on the original one, but on Shrek 2, they had this feature, an extra, in those days they still had DVDs, right?
Yes.
And one of the extra bonus features was a version of American Idol called Far Away Idol, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they decided to have characters from Shrek show up on this show as a talent show. So I was able to do 3 blind mice singing I Can See Clearly Now. So that was kind of funny. I got to be Captain Hook singing I Can't Stop Believing. And then what was the other? Oh, I was Prince Charming too.
Okay.
Right, where I did I'm Too Sexy for My Shirt.
There
you know.
you go.
So all of those were very silly,
Mm-hmm.
but it got a lot of attention after the fact. And so, yeah, that's how it happens, You go in, you do a bunch of crazy stuff, and then they go, hey, I like that. That was fun.
How did you do Brother Bear? How did you work with that one?
Brother Bear was a project where the vocal contractor for the movie, a session singer named Bobby Page, she called me to work on it with a composer named Mark Mancina. Mark Mancina got it. He used to work for Hans Zimmer. He was one of what I call Hans's minions, which just means composers, young composers who learned how to be composers working for Hans Zimmer. He would be like the head composer of a movie project, and then he would have a lot of his assistants working on the thing, and they would learn the craft that way. And one of those guys was Mark Mancina. Mark ended up going out on his own and doing movies like Speed, which was a great action adventure thing, that he did. But anyway, he was doing Brother Bear. And so I got called in and once more to sing for Disney. That's how it happened.
Okay. So how did you do the song Everybody Needs a Theme? Need or something. Sorry.
What was the name of it again?
Everybody Wants a Need.
Oh, yeah. That was really fun. We were doing some projects for a really talented film composer here in LA. He's British, born and raised, but he now lives in LA, and his name is John Powell. And John Powell got this assignment to write the music for the Lorax movie, which was a Dr. Seuss story, and they were going to do an animated version of it. And so in the process of that, he had us come in and kind of do demo versions of some of the songs that he was writing. He was actually working them out and trying out stuff with us as a group of singers. And so, in some cases, he would say, well, Randy, I'd like you to sing a version of it, and then I'm going to give it to some other actor who's going to sing it for the actual movie. And then we would be the background singers, and somebody else would be the lead. But in a couple cases, they actually put that on a soundtrack CD, so that if you went out and bought that, you could hear the original versions sung by people like me. I did one thing where they wanted Danny DeVito sing this song called Biggerin', figuring on Biggerin'. And so the original version of it is sung by me. And then they were going to give it to Danny DeVito and have him sing it. But I think they ended up going a different direction, and it didn't make it into the final version of the movie. But I still had fun singing it. So that's how that happened.
Okay. So my friend Brian Hall, he's an impressionist, and he wants to know, because he does like Perry the Platypus voice. So how does that work for you for that?
Well, I've never done an impression of Perry the Platypus. You know, not his speaking voice. There's a guy who does that, but it's not me. You could probably find him out, but just looking up Phineas and Ferb credits, you know, because they have all the same voice people, I think, came back and are doing the new reboot of the series.
Yes.
But yeah, in my case, I was just the singing voice of the theme, and they kind of wanted it. Danny Jacobs said, "Look, man, it should be like kind of like Tom Jones singing in the James Bond movie Thunderball."
Mm-hmm.
He said it should sound like you're really worked up about it. Like it's really important, you know. Perry the Platypus, Agent P. You know, so I, you know, kind of oversang it. They call that in acting chewing on the scenery when you overact, you know, and I kind of overacted as a singer. But they liked it, so that's what they went with.
Okay. Let's see here. How did you do Milan 2?
Mulan 2 was one of those direct-to-DVD sequels. You know, the original Mulan was a feature film released by Disney. Mm-hmm. And then in those days, back in the 90s, they would have sequels to those, but they would do them on the cheap. You know, they'd do them for a much lower budget, and they would hope that everybody who liked the original one would really love the sequel. So Mulan 2, there'd been a guy who did some of the original songs on the Mulan movie, a really talented singer-songwriter named Matthew Wilder. And Matthew had voiced this character then when they did Mulan 2, they wanted to bring the character back, but they didn't want to pay him very much money. So he said, "Nah, that's okay. I'm not available." So then they called me. Little did I know. I didn't know I was replacing poor Matthew. Somebody said, "Hey, you want to go in and sing this guy?" And he should sound like a kind of a little nerd, nebbish kind of guy. So it's like, okay. And I hadn't even seen the original Mulan. I went in and they played me a voice clip, and it sounded like, you know, the old comedian Jerry Lewis years ago used to do a character who was kind of like this the entire time, and he was always talking like this. Wow. So they had me do that character. A girl worth fighting for. So, you know, I did my best Jerry Lewis impression, and that's what they went with.
Okay. So, let's see here. How did you get the movie of Godzilla? How did that work out?
That was strictly through a vocal contractor. A vocal contractor is a singer who puts together a group of singers that they hire for movie projects. So in this case, I actually did two different versions of Godzilla. They had done a remake of Godzilla with a certain composer, and a woman named Sally Stevens, who was a very successful session singer and vocal contractor, asked me to be part of it. So then they scrapped that whole version. They did a completely new theme for it, and I got called in to do the remake of it. So I felt like I'm blessed. I get to do it twice. And it was just scary movie music, you know, monster movie music with a big choir of us doing oohs and ahs and stuff. So I wasn't featured as a soloist. I was just one of the gang.
Let's see here. My mom is asking, how did you do the music of Mamma Mia?
I didn't actually do any music for Mamma Mia. If I'm listed as that, that's probably a mistaken credit.
No.
Yeah, occasionally that happens. People give me credit for something on my IMDb page, and I'll say, "Huh, that'd be nice if I did it," but I didn't. So you never know.
So how did you do How to Train Your Dragon, the new live action?
Oh yeah, that was really fun. Uh, Again, that's a John Powell movie score. He's the guy that wrote the music for it, and so he called a bunch of us in, and we got to do just some really gorgeous music. John is such a talented composer. He's one of those guys that started out working for Hans Zimmer also, and he wrote a lot of movie scores, basically kind of under Hans's umbrella. And then he got out and started working on his own, and he's been fabulous. He did all of those. He just did so many great movies that we've had a chance to be a part of over the years, and I'm grateful to have had the chance to work on it. For instance, Happy Feet, and Happy Feet 2. John was the guy that put together all the amazing music for that. He produced all that. Yeah, he's a force of nature, Mr. Powell, and he writes in every known style. So you can't pigeonhole him into one thing. He's very versatile and does a ton of different stuff well. So I'm grateful to be on his call list.
Hmm. How about the SpongeBob movie, The Sponge on the Run? How did you work on that one?
Well, that's one of those things where I was just part of the choir, and I think that was a Bobby Page call because she was the vocal contractor for this thing, and she was putting together a bunch of guys specifically who could kind of sing like pirates and sing character voices and then sing some regular stuff. So, you know, once again, being able to wear a lot of different hats helps with some of this stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. How did Kung Fu Panda 4 go? Did you do any voice on that, or did you do any
Yeah.
singing?
Yeah, we did actually. That was the thing. We came in with Hans Zimmer and worked with him on it. And it was interesting because at the time they wanted to get an authentic choir who could sing in Mandarin Chinese, you know. And so they
Mm-hmm.
got a few people in our choir who were of Chinese descent, like they were either born in China or their parents were born in China, and so they could speak Mandarin, and so their pronunciation would be good. And then they got a bunch of us who were just the regular session singers who could imitate really well, and then they would demonstrate for us how to speak and pronounce the different words, and we would all do that together. So it was really great fun. Sadly, true story, we got replaced in the final version of the show by an actual Chinese choir, from Beijing. So we got bumped from it because I guess, they decided maybe we weren't as authentic as they wanted. I don't know. One never knows.
Um, Sorry, I don't know. So how sing, did you work on the chord, or did you work on singing, or the act-
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Ask again. What were you asking?
um did you do singing too, like vocal, or singing, or
I think we're having a little
for singing?
intermittent connection problem here because you're cutting in and
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Ask me again, all right? I promise if I hear you, I'll answer. Folks, this is the challenge of live streaming. When it works, it works.
Okay. All right, I'm back.
All right. So you were about to ask me.
About Sing 2.
Oh, yeah.
Thing on that movie?
Yeah, that was really fun. In that, they had, if you remember the movie, they had a talent competition that all these different animals in the town go and audition for. So they said, okay, we want to have a singing pig named Gunther. And Gunther has to come up and sing, Lady Gaga tune. So I sang that. Then I sang as a singing alligator doing the Humpty dance, which is, kind of a hip hop track from way back in the day. So that was very silly. So, I just show up as these different characters on that. And you see those, for a few seconds, and then they cut to the next contestant. So, it was hilarious to do. So.
Okay.
That was an invite from a guy named Jasper Randall, who's another vocal contractor in town. Very talented guy, and he just said, "Hey, man, can you do these sounds? Can do some sound alikes like this?" I said, "Sure, why not?"
How about the Lion King? Did you do any of those?
Ask again. You cut out right when you got around.
James Earl Jones.
Sorry, I didn't catch it.
I said, did you work with James Earl Jones for the Lion King?
No, we did the live action version of Lion King, and we didn't have any interaction with the lead characters. We were just we were the choir of kind of the African sounding choir that happens in a lot of the musical moments. That was really cool, though. That was for a contractor, a really talented singer conductor named Edie Lehman Boddicker, and Edie basically put the choir together for it. Again, it was for a Hans Zimmer thing. We went in and it was really wonderful. And they had the guy, Lebo M, who did that original, that on the original Lion King. So he came back and coached us all on authentic pronunciation, because most of our group, of course, are not African. So we imitated what we heard, and apparently they liked it, because that ended up being on the final movie. We were all those big choral backgrounds.
Let's see. Did you work on Scooby-Doo?
Yes, that was a funny thing too.
Movie?
Yeah, I worked on a couple of Scooby-Doo movies. Yeah, it was one of these things. The way that happened was one of the guys that was writing music for the Scooby-Doo things, I had known him years before because he had what they call an ad music house. In other words, they write music for advertising, commercials. And I had worked on some things for him and knew of his name. Anyway, I ran into him some years later and found out he was writing for Scooby-Doo. And I said, "Hey, if you ever need, somebody to sing for that, I'd love to sing for you. I thought you wrote some great things." He said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I've got some upcoming stuff where I could use you. But here's the thing, you gotta sing like a punk band. You gotta sing some bluegrass." He had about 3 different styles he wanted me to sing in. I said, "Well, that's no problem." So I have clips of it on my website too, where people can see what it sounded like in the final Scooby-Doo movie, but it's hilarious. So I had a chance to do that just because he got in touch with me,
Let's see here. How about Frozen 2? Did you do anything for that movie.
For which one?
Sing 2.
Yeah, that's the one you asked me about. That I sang a couple of voices in the singing competition.
Right. I said Frozen 2, the movie from Disney.
Yeah, so that was
You
fun.
know, Frozen 2,
Oh, Frozen.
the Frozen
No, I
2
didn't work.
movie. Yes, yes.
I only did in the original Frozen movie. I didn't do Frozen 2. I did the original Frozen, and I did the Ice Cutters song. You know, right at the beginning of the thing, these guys are all chopping out blocks of ice and singing this song. So I was one of the ice cutters. If you listen closely, you can hear my little voice amongst the guys.
Hmm.
So that was fun.
So I know I've been watching Horton Hears a Who. Tell me about that one.
Well, that was another John Powell score. You know, the guy that I did Happy Feet for and Lorax. So Horton Hears a Who, of course, another Dr. Seuss story. So in it, it was really fun because not only did I get a chance to sing the choir music for it, but they wanted to have a very silly lullaby song that was really, really irritating, like that would wake somebody up rather than put them to sleep. So John said, "You think we could come up with something like that?" And I said, "Yeah, you want to co-write it?" So John Powell and I wrote this song, which was a lullaby, but in the middle of it, it's like we're going, la, la, yeah, 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 la, la, yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, so people would be sleeping, and then there'd be this screaming, yelling stuff. And we talked about make sure there are no bed bugs biting you and spiders in your bed. And, you know, by the time we sang this horrible song, no one would ever be able to fall asleep to it. That was the whole joke. It was not a very good lullaby, but that was on purpose. So it did not end up going into the movie. After we did all that work, one of the actors, one of the voice actors, decided that he could make up a better version than that. And so they ended up using his, which, in my biased mind, was not as good as the one John and I wrote. So.
How did you work on The Simpsons? The TV show The Simpsons. I know you've been working
Yeah,
on
yeah.
that
Well, I got
for
called in on that
a
pretty
long
early
time.
on. Yeah, and in fact, I worked on a lot of episodes. The late great Alf Clausen was the composer for 27 years on the show, and the vocal contractor who would put singers together for the show was Sally Stevens, who you heard her name before mentioned. And she was kind enough to call over the years. And we would go in whenever there were songs to be demoed that the cast was going to sing. It would be sung by us, the session singers. Then the cast would learn the song by listening to our version of it. And in some cases, if it was too difficult for them to do, they would use our version. So in some cases, I would end up, you know, being a soloist on something. And in other cases, I would be the first version that would then be replaced by Homer or one of the other characters. But that's how that happened. It was so fun. Great, very clever musical writing, funny lyrics. Just, it was really good.
So you're gonna go back to The Simpsons for the couple of seasons because I know it's in September and everything. Um, so are you gonna be working on that or?
You know, I haven't been called yet, but last year I worked on some Simpsons stuff. So, yeah, you know, I never know. Our business is funny that way, Fulton. We're either unemployed on any given day, or we need a clone of ourselves, like, because we're so busy. So I never know more than a few weeks ahead of time, by the way, what I'll be working on. And then I'll get a call or a text or an email, and they'll say, "Hi, are you available for?" And then I'm working again. So that's probably. Oh, I see you have a lovely canine companion.
Oh, yes, I do. Lou, come here. Come here. It's okay. This is Lou.
Oh.
Lou, it's okay. She's a black muff coat. Do you guys have any dogs? Or?
Yeah, we have a little 8-pound rescue dog named Charlie. Charlie is an elderly dog, and he's having health problems right now. You know, it's sad when our animal companions have to go through that, because they don't live as long as we humans. So Charlie's got congestive heart failure and stuff, and you know, he's coughing all the time, but we still love him. He's a good boy, and we've had him for years. My daughters love him. So we will miss Charlie, but Charlie has been a very good dog for us.
Yeah. Actually, I have one dog and 2 cats down here.
Wow, do they get along okay?
Yeah, they do. One of my cats is getting old. So,
Yep, that happens.
And you guys said you're Christian?
Yes, yeah, I'm a strong believer,
Okay.
and you know, that's one of the things that's helped, I think, keep me a little bit centered in our business. Our business is full of people who are self-centered and trying to become rich and famous, and trying to talk about themselves at all times. And I'm thankful that my value and my worth doesn't come from the jobs that I do or whatever crazy voice that I do, but it really comes from God. So, you know, as the old saying, as the old hymn goes, praise God from whom all blessings flow. They don't flow from me. So I'm grateful that I get a chance to use my talents and gifts and do it in a business where I can be a believer in Christ. So that's really cool.
My dog just messed up my thing. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Let's see here.
Well, Fulton, I hate to say it, but I'm going to have to be on my merry way here.
Would you like to say anybody who is watching, or do you have any suggestions of how they grow their YouTube channel?
Oh, you mean other people that you might contact?
Yep.
Yeah, there are some terrific singers that I work with who are versatile like myself. They do all kinds of different things. One singer that you probably should contact is a woman named Baraka May. Yeah, I mean, Baraka sounds like Erica, but it starts with a B. But she lives here in Southern California, and she not only does singing, but also character voice and voice acting kind of stuff. And she's one of the busier younger singers around. So she's fun to work with and probably has lots of great stories to tell you. So I recommend that you, yeah, I recommend that you contact her. I think you'll enjoy chatting with her.
And what's the name?
Yeah, Baraka is spelled, it's a funny spelling. It looks like Baraka. Baraka. and then last name is May, M-A-Y. So yeah, and here's I'm going to give you her email address because that's the easiest way to contact her. Just email her, tell her what you do, and see if there's a time that she can work out to be interviewed by you. All right, you would just write to Baraka Vocals. So Baraka and then vocals, VOCALS. And that's all one word, lowercase, and that's at gmail.com. So you can get a hold of her that way. If you want to look on her website and see how cool she is, just go to www.barakamay.com. Yeah, and you'll see what she's up to.
I was wondering if you can give a shout out, Randy, to my grandpa, Bob. Today's his 85th birthday today.
Can you say it again? You're breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, that's all right. Today's my grandpa Bob's 85th birthday, and my grandpa Kelly is 7.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Here's a happy birthday wish for your 85-year-old grandpa. May he have a wonderful day with family and friends gathered around, and many more wonderful years.
Great. Thank you so much, Randy, for coming on. And we posted a link in the chat for you. And go check out Randy CrenShaw. He does music and a lot of interviews, so check him out. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much, Randy.
All right, Fulton. Take care, man. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, guys, that was Randy CrenShaw. I just want to thank everyone for watching the stream today. Sorry it was a delay or something, but make sure you guys check him out. We'll give him the link and everything. Randy, put in the comment below and put the link in or something so they can check your channel out. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, leave a general comment, and share the stream. And we have another show on Sunday. So everyone is welcome. So thank you guys, and we'll see you guys later. Bye.